Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here and joining us for our Lunch and Learn Managing Project Spending Without the Chaos. I am Carlene LeMay with C2 Accounting, and I'm co-hosting this today with Ramp. Let's do here. So just a little bit about me. I have a firm, C2 Accounting and Business Support. We focus on bookkeeping for small businesses with a special emphasis on interior designers. So we do support a plethora of interior design platforms, including House Pro, Mydoma, Design Files, and Programma. So I wanted to take a moment here to introduce our co-host today, Perry Weber with Ramp. You stop by
Awesome.
share.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Carlene, for having me. I'm very excited to present today. Just a little bit about me. I am a channel partner manager here at Ramp, which means I essentially help businesses evaluate if Ramp is a good fit for them and work closely with firms like Carlene's to help identify if anyone that they work with is a good fit. So where I'm going to start is with just a brief kind of high-level overview of RAMP, and then
Mhm.
we'll jump into making this a little bit more of a discussion, but just want to make sure we're all on the same page about what RAMP does, and then we can go from there.
Yes, today will be more of a fireside chat. So I'm looking forward to us talking and discussing a little bit more about it.
Awesome. I am going to share my screen. Wonderful. So again, a little bit about me. Before I worked at Ramp, I worked at a company that used Concur. I am someone that travels very frequently for work, so I quite often would come home from my long travels and have to pull my receipts out of my crumpled backpack and go one by one and actually key in all of that information into Concur. And anecdotally, when I showed up at Ramp, I was shocked at the amount of time that I personally got back as an employee who frequently has to submit expenses. Suddenly, it was all automated. Suddenly, I didn't have to kind of manually key in that information, and I could submit my expenses actually at the point of sale. So not only is Ramp something that I'm excited to talk about, but it's something that has also personally impacted me as someone that works for a business and has to submit expenses.
Mm. And anecdotally, I am also a Ramp customer, so I get to have that experience from both sides as a bookkeeper that supports clients using Ramp, but also as a user, and I can tell you it's transformed our company as well.
Exactly. No, it's been great having our firms also try out Ramp for themselves because
Hmm.
it's definitely a tool where once you actually get to experience it and use it, you understand the power that it brings compared to a little
Yes,
bit more dated tools.
I
Um,
agree.
And similarly, on that note, just for a bit of background on Ramp, we were founded in 2019 after our founders sold a business to Capital One, and they realized that it's very common for businesses to have extremely fragmented systems that don't talk to each other. So I'm sure for you all as business owners, if this looks very familiar, you've got a corporate card, you've got an expense management tool. Maybe for some of your tools, you kind of need this app on top of an app in order to fix the thing that first app doesn't do. Where Ramp comes in is we are a full spend management platform. So
Hmm.
any dollar that is leaving your business outside of payroll, Ramp can handle. And then all of that information flows succinctly into whatever general ledger that you use. So here's again kind of a look at the 6 tools that we offer. I think something that I always like to note is that as a business, you can really pick and choose what aspects of Ramp are most important to you. I work with plenty of businesses that just use our corporate card and expense management tool, and that's totally fine. And then I also have businesses that just use us for bill pay, for example.
Hmm.
But what I will say the power of Ramp is really that consolidation. When you have access to the insights and the data of how every dollar your business is being spent, you can actually take a look at that holistically and help determine strategy for the business going forward. So while I understand that every business has different needs, I always encourage if it is possible to consolidate on Ramp, that is one of the best experiences to do so. We're also going to talk a little bit today about it specifically for design firms where Carlene and I will kind of have a discussion about it, and we'll focus very much on kind of project expense management, vendor payments, and also team cards for employees and anyone that is outsourced as well.
Exactly.
Awesome. So just a little bit about the Ramp card in general. Ramp runs on the Visa network, so it works anywhere that a Visa does. And how it works is employees and business owners would get physical cards, but these physical cards are tied to virtual budgets. So in the interior design space, maybe it's Project A, Project B, Project C. And then when you actually swipe your Ramp card, you get a text message that says, hey, you just spent $64 at the Sage Club Grill. Send us a photo of your receipt. You text that photo back to Ramp. Ramp responds with a couple suggested memos or various budgets that you are tied to, and you can say which project it's connected to, and then you're done. That information flows into Ramp in real time, and Carlene and her team actually sees that information as it's coming in. Um, what's great about this is obviously this is meeting you where you are. You know, you are going out, you are purchasing things in the world.
Hmm.
Um, it breaks up your flow to have to then go home and key in your expenses when really you could just be doing it on the go.
Exactly. And I want to say this here because a lot of our clients are starting to grow, and it's not just them who are purchasing, it's their team members. And so it takes the onus off the business owner to track down those receipts and answer all of our questions. Now, whoever's actually making the purchase is not responsible for it. And that's talk about a weight off your shoulders, right? Like that makes things so much easier.
Exactly. It's perfect for growing businesses, and it's perfect too for businesses that have to adhere to strict client budgets, for example. You can't be everywhere at once, and so it's a great way to
Exactly.
give employees access to very designated spend, where you get visibility in real time into how they're actually spending.
And I think someone also in the comments mentioned something about the fact that how this would be great if you're buying retail accessories because
Mhm.
they can then know exactly how much they have left on the budget. Because a lot of times they're not buying those accessories until the end of the project, right? They're trying to kind of add the things in before they go and shoot the space. And knowing, I only have $1,000 left in this budget, so let's not go crazy while we're at home goods is going to be super helpful for a lot of people.
Exactly. I think the interior design use case for this is great, and I'm glad that you noted the accessories portion in the comments. Awesome. Something else to note too is, as interior designers, you're also making a lot of purchases online. Text message is definitely the most popular way people submit receipts, but we do also have Gmail and Outlook integrations. So as you purchase things online, the receipt comes into your inbox. Ramp is actually connected to your inbox, so you don't even have to forward receipts in. We actually automatically pull that information right into Ramp, so it's one less thing for you to worry about.
So can we pause for a second right here?
Mhm.
Because currently, the way platforms that we use currently and in the past, our clients who are using receipt management with us, they have to forward them, like you mentioned, but they have to use this complicated note-taking system, like hashtag note, what card did they use? What is it for? And so there's this whole thing. And so people forget they don't do it right, things don't come across. So I hear you're saying is they don't even have to do any of that. It's if it's in their inbox, Ramp is going to figure out that's a receipt associated with Ramp and it's going to come right over to the platform.
Exactly. So no more concerns about notations.
Hmm.
When the purchase is made, it goes right into Ramp, and then you can designate which project it's for. It's again, like our entire ethos is saving teams time and money. So this is just again more time in your day that you are getting back.
Yes.
Not worried about notations, not worried about forwarding it, not worried about, did I do this correctly, whatever it might be.
And more visibility. Yeah, because I know
Mhm.
that a lot of times, I think another one that I saw in the chat was if I issue cards to my team, how do I make sure we don't over accidentally spend on a project? And this is one of those ways because things are happening almost in real time. So you know for sure that you're not overspending on a project.
Exactly. That's one of the things that we care a lot about at Ramp when we're building this platform is historically expenses and finance in general at businesses has been very reactive rather than
Yeah.
proactive. And this is a tool like this is giving your business the ability to get ahead of it, to block unnecessary or out of policy spend ahead of time, and also, making sure that you can actually see the budget as you go.
Yeah, I think that's super duper important. One of the things, if we could take a pause for a second here, because I've been
Yeah.
going back and forth, because there were some
Yeah.
people who couldn't make it live and they
Mhm.
sent in some questions ahead of time. So I want to make sure I catch those questions as well.
Mhm.
I saw someone who said, we often get charged in multiple installments as items ship. How does Ramp help me keep track of what's actually being spent versus what was just ordered? So let me tell you what I was thinking and then tell me if I'm on the right track here.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to give a use case, so when someone orders from a place like CB2, so maybe they place $1,000 order. In the past, they would send us a receipt, and I put receipt in air quotes because it was usually just an order, a receipt for $1,000. Well, the receipt didn't always have the shipping, so obviously then it doesn't match, right? But then when the vendor delivers, if they only shipped out two items, they would charge for two items here, three items there. And so nothing, the receipts that we received never ever matched what was hitting their card. So we were having to go back and ask the client questions. And they're like, well, we already sent it to you. And I'm like, no. So this becomes if there is $1,000 order and it's hit into your card, say in five increments, whoever's actually card that's being used would get pinged to submit a receipt for each of those individual purchases. So no more guessing as to what project it's before, because the person who made the actual purchase, they should know what it's for. Am I explaining that correctly?
Yes, that is spot on, Carlene. So, yes, you're getting notifications for each transaction, and it means that your team in real time can assign those transactions, over text when it asks what project it's for, or maybe that employee is only assigned to one project. It
Hmm.
connects to that project, and you can attach that kind of initial receipt to each and every one. So we know, like, this is installment one of five as part of this payment. And
Yes.
again, like more real-time visibility. And also, as you mentioned, Carlene, there's sort of more transparency across the whole process of what is kind of like a relatively like complicated transaction process
Yeah.
with your vendors.
Right. Yeah, and I find that interior designers, when they only have, say 1 to 3 projects, it's manageable. But when you're doing 5, 10, 15 projects simultaneously, it becomes overwhelming. And add in, you have contractors or employees who are also spending money, it gets to be a mess. And if you're all sharing one card, that's really hard.
Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. This also breaks it up by employee as well. So each employee gets their own Ramp card. If you are on kind of the admin side of Ramp, if you are the business owner, you can also see which employee is spending on what. And so it creates that transparency and visibility there as well.
So each employee is getting their own brand card, and then inside of that one card, we can actually set spending budgets based on the project. So here's a question I have. Let's say we have a budget that's 100,000 for one client. How do we break that down per user, or are all the users associated with that one budget for 100,000? How does that kind of work?
Great question. So Ramp is really customizable, and it can be kind of as granular or as not granular as you would like. One
Okay.
way to handle this is to say, okay, I'm creating one virtual budget for $100,000 for this project. The restrictions are on it are going to be a little bit looser, and I'm going to give every employee assigned to this project access to this budget. Now, maybe you want to take it a step further and you know that certain employees should only be spending on certain things.
Mm,
You can break that budget up and create different budgets for different categories. So maybe you want to create a virtual budget that is for project A, um, you know, furniture purchases.
right.
For project A, accessory purchase.
Accessories. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Breaking it up by category, adding different restrictions, different limits into it, and requiring employees to actually select which budget they are spending from when they are
Mm,
making more distinct purchases. Um,
yeah.
Yeah, so it really depends on preference, on how you want to organize the expenses, but you can make this as granular or as not granular as you'd like.
It's very interesting because I've seen some clients, the way they price a project, they do kind of break out furniture versus even like subcontractors versus accessories. So having all of that split, I can see for someone, there's some people are very, like you said, loosey-goosey, but for some people they're very type A and they need to know. That's going to be super helpful for the way their brain works, right? To be able to break it down even further. I love that. I'm one of those type A people, so that
Yeah.
works for me for sure.
Absolutely. And I also think like it's what's great about it is on the employee side of things who maybe they're receiving these more granular budgets. It's actually taking work off their plates too. You know, in real
Yes.
time they just select what it is and then they're done as well. So business owner, accountant getting info in real time, employee like actually speeding up their expense process, making it easier for them to submit expenses on the go. It's honestly kind of a win-win on both fronts.
And from the bookkeeper side, let me tell you, it's a one for us as well. So, um, I had another question that came in earlier, kind of very similar to what you were just saying about making things easier for the employees. One of my clients said, my team is busy and sometimes forget to send receipts. Is there a way to make documentation more automatic? So it's not that we're making it more automatic, but we're making it easier because they're just getting a text message, right? So we're meeting them where they are, which is usually on their phone. So,
Exactly. That's a great point, Carlene. And I also like to note that you can develop your expense policy. Like, again, it's as customizable as you would like it to be. So maybe you only want employees submitting expenses if, or submitting receipts, for example, if the purchase is above $75 or
mm,
any threshold that you create. If you feel like you want to provide that flexibility to your employees, that there's sort of types of purchases that are non-negotiables for submitting receipts and some it's okay if they don't. You're absolutely more than welcome to do so. You can also customize the policy by who the employee is, what department they're in, what they're purchasing on. Um, so really, ultimately, our goal is to make submitting receipts as easy as humanly possible.
right.
But if there's scenarios where that feels like an unnecessary step, you're absolutely more than welcome to change that yourself too in Ramp.
Yeah, the customization piece is super important. And I think sometimes when people hear customization, they get overwhelmed mentally, but you guys do onboarding, so you help walk through those steps anyway. So it's not like they're doing it by themselves.
Exactly, exactly. We can sort of help you set up the policy however you've kind of imagined it.
And one of the things I've thought about doing as a bookkeeping firm that works almost exclusively with interior designers at this point is that helping for us to kind of create like a universal interior design spin, kind of guidelines, and then they can customize it for their individual business, but it gives them a jumping off point, right? That's really kind of catered to the industry. That's not more generic. So hopefully that's something that we can see that we can implement that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think kind of the last thing I'll just note on the general front as well is that we do have bill pay as well in Ramp.
Mhm.
And what makes our bill pay different is we completely automate the intake to payment end to end. So a bill
Mhm.
can come into Ramp. We parse out all of the information. We use a combination of OCR technology and AI to actually read the bill, help you code it, and then actually issue payment as well. We do offer ACH and check for free on Ramp, and you can also do wires as well as same day ACH and overnight checks as well.
And there's a lot of approvals around that as well. So, like for example, if we are actually entering those bills for them, the client still has complete control of when the funds leave their account and they have to approve it.
Exactly. So approval tree inside of Ramp as well. And this sort of AI component of our bill pay is also extremely powerful. When a bill is uploaded into Ramp, we do have a fraud agent that will read the bill, scan it for 60 different signs of fraud, and flag to you any suspicious behavior as well. So, especially if you are paying vendors, especially if you're paying them kind of high value invoices for
Mhm.
items that you then have to be responsible for your clients. This is a great way to use technology to have preventative measures to make sure it's not solely on the business owner or the bookkeeper who's helping process it to ensure that everything is kind of above board.
Does Ramp allow in the bill payment module partial payments? Because a lot of times with interior designers, they're doing custom pieces. And so it may only require a 50% deposit. So let's say we have a $50,000 invoice. Can they then make a $25,000 payment and then the balance sits there waiting for it to be paid later?
So this is actually a brand new feature on Ramp. We are in the process of launching it. So all I'll say is watch this space, stay tuned. It is coming eminently.
Yes, that's what I wanted to hear because I
Yes.
know, yeah. And the reason I think that's important is because yes, we can break down the one $50,000 invoice to two invoices, but I know for and then which we'll do in the meantime, right? But going forward, long term, it helps us see like what's still out there. So when you are looking at budgets and understanding how much you have left to spend, let's not forget about the the other part of that custom, couch that's still sitting out there that needs to be paid.
Exactly, exactly. That was probably one of our like top most requested features was doing partial payments, and obviously for the interior design industry, it makes complete sense why that's really important. So we will be able to support that
That is
very,
awesome.
very soon. Awesome. I will just pause there with sharing my screen. Carlene, were there kind of any other topics, questions that I
Yeah, so let's see here. One of the questions we had to do with cashback and points. So specifically, so do you keep, this is from Stacy. She wanted to know, so would you keep a normal credit card like American Express or Visa for bill pay, or does that mess things up? Or do you have to have every credit card in Ramp? Because she's concerned about points and cashback.
Yeah, the short of it is you can absolutely keep your Amex. What I will say generally is Ramp offers 1.5% cash back on all purchases, uncapped, untiered. So that's money that's going back to your business bottom line that you can use to help grow your business more. I completely understand that people really love their Amexes. They feel emotionally tied to it. So I do work with businesses where the business owner might keep the Amex for some purchases,
Mhm.
but all employees go onto Ramp, or any client purchasing goes onto Ramp. So you definitely can, but a lot of the power with Ramp is, of course, that consolidation of understanding every dollar that is leaving a business. So the short is that we could do both.
And with Ramp, the cashback is not just cashback, right? Like you can actually use that to redeem it for other ways, like points with your, I think you guys do like different hotels with like Amazon. So there are ways to still, as people have gotten used to using their business points to kind of fund their personal lifestyle, there's still that ability. Do you have like a screen that shows what your point partners are, at least at this moment? And I know the list is continually growing.
Yes, absolutely. So you did hit the nail on the head. You can, of course, redeem this cash back for, paying off your statement balance, using it for Ramp subscription, but we do also have a reward section that I will show momentarily that does have partner points and kind of areas that you can actually redeem it. So let me share my screen really quickly. And for anyone that comes through Carlene's referral, we do give the 1.5% cash back as a nice little thank you for being part of Carlene's network. But as you can see, you can pay your subscription fee, pay your card balance. You can even just deposit it as cash, or you can redeem it as gift cards. We have over 160 gift card partners, or partner points such as Marriott Bonvoy, some airlines, or even donating to charity as well.
Yeah, that's good. So yes, it's not the exact same as using your American Express, but a lot of I know I personally love my Ram card, but I still have my American Express because I like having my access to lounges. So, you can do both and you can figure out what makes sense. But the purpose of this conversation today is the power of using Ramp specifically for your project spending. So that's and for a lot of our clients, the bulk of their business spending is their cost of goods sold, is their project. So that helps them to really streamline this process so that they're not scrambling at the last minute or wondering if they're being profitable, which is super important.
Exactly.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a pause and come back for the second part. So thank you for sharing what we talked about so far.
And scene.
All right. Yeah, I'll figure out. I don't even know where I'm recording, but yeah, we'll make sure we stop it there. So cool.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you
Yeah,
so
I'm
much.
glad I saved those questions from yesterday.
Yeah.
So thank you again. I appreciate it. I will see you over in Slack if you need anything else. All
All right. Thanks,
right.
Carlene.
Thank you. Take
I'll
care.
talk to you
Bye-bye.
soon. Bye.
Is
Sorry
what your
about that.
preference is. No, you're all good. Um, the first is virtual funds, that Carlene, I know we actually wanted to get into ourselves. So this is how you would actually kind of create that project bucket of spend. Now, more traditional businesses will kind of use this in a variety of different ways. As you can see, there's a lot of different office supplies budgets in this demo account, but you could just as easily create one specifically for a project. Now, in terms of ensuring that you don't go over budget, you can actually create extremely hard stops on these budgets as well. Um, so let's say David, Ahmed, and Andy are all working on Project A, and you know it does not repeat, and it is a budget of $100,000. Every time something is purchased for Project A, you can add the specific submission policy that we had kind of discussed in that policy section, and you can add spending controls and restrictions here. So maybe you want to say, okay, most things are allowed, but you definitely cannot go to alcohol and bars, and you definitely cannot go gambling with this. You want to keep it fairly loose, but you know for sure no one should be buying liquor or going to the casino with this. You can create these restrictions actually embedded into the card. So as you're issuing this out to employees, if they try to, go to the club with the corporate card, it gets blocked right away.
Which I love.
Yeah, I love it. You can also, again, like as part of the customization, you can also create that as a flag, not a block. So maybe your employees do actually go wine and dine clients. Alcohol isn't necessarily a hard stop, but you want to
Hmm.
be notified every time they do purchase alcohol. You can actually create it as a flag rather than a blocked category, and kind of create that nuance there. You can also create start dates and stop dates. So maybe this project is happening for 1 month and that's it. You should not be making any purchases outside of this 1 month. You can have the card start and stop on specific dates. And maybe you also know as well, this is perhaps a little bit less relevant to what you guys do, but you know that one singular expense should not be more than $20,000. You can actually create those blocks as well in here, along with actually adding accounting rules as well. So you know
Hmm.
that this is going to be for a specific customer. Every time the card is swiped, it's already tied to that specific project and budget.
Nice.
So
And
this
this
is
is,
sort of, oh yeah, go ahead, Carly.
is this more of a virtual card? This is not the physical card. We're creating like a virtual card.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. This is
Okay.
a virtual card that can tie to people's physical cards if you give them access to, or alternatively, you can leave it as a virtual card and people can pay from this kind of budget that's set up through Apple Pay.
Nice. Okay. Interesting. So they can add that to their Google Apple Pay.
Hmm.
And this, even though we haven't talked a lot about bill payment, but the same concept applies to bill payment. So for those clients that, let's say, one of the things that happens is they're doing a custom piece of furniture. So let's say it's a $50,000 couch, and they need to make a $25,000 deposit. So they're paying for like out of their checking account. So they can do bill payment. They can set up bill payment within Ramp. It could take the $25,000 as a bill payment out of their account, and it shows, and now the bill syncs over to QuickBooks, and the balance is still sitting here. When it comes time to make the rest of the payment, they can come back into Ramp, pay the balance that's due, and it syncs over to QuickBooks. Everything's easy peasy. There's no question about how much do I owe for this, because how many times have people, I'm sure, have bought something like this custom and they forget that they still owe 3 invoices is out. And then when it comes time to pay, it's a little bit of a panic mode. And this helps them to make sure that they're tracking payables in a very easy way.
Exactly. I think this again goes back to that theme of accountability, visibility, organization. Again, it's all living in one place and we are automating it for you. So just kind of an example bill of how we do it. Bill comes into Ramp, we attach to the vendor, and then we pull out all of this information.
Hmm.
We can do purchase order matching as well. And then we break it out line item by line item. So as you can see here, these little stars mean that Ramp actually read the bill and is suggesting coding based on what we see and what is in your chart of accounts. We will pull it out line item. Oop, let me find actually a different bill really quickly since this Amazon one is not matching to the PO. One moment. Awesome. Breaks it out line item by line item. You can also add in the vendor in Ramp. If you get, say, vendor credits, you get refunded from a vendor. If you get discounts or tax, those will appear as line items as well inside of Ramp. And then you can select the payment method here as well. So ACH and check by mail are actually totally free on Ramp. We do not charge for either. We do also offer domestic wire, international wire, same day ACH. And also, if you do use the Ramp card to pay bills, you will get that cash back. We'll flag to you if vendors do accept credit cards so you can utilize that cash back. But also, as we talked about with the example of having additional cards, you can also log bills as not paid with Ramp, and you still benefit from that syncing into QBO, as Carlene mentioned.
And you just answered Stacy's next question. She had asked if she wasn't sure if the Ramp was only for cards, and no, we can definitely use bill payments. And you can actually do ACH. Like Perry was saying, wires, checks by mail. And I've used your ACH for my direct deposit client vendor payments, and it's usually next day. And then I've worked with other ACH bill payments, even QuickBooks bill payments, and it could take like 2 to 3 days. So yours is pretty fast.
Yeah. The first time that you use Ramp, it will probably take a little bit longer, but Carlene, as you said, it gets very quick, very quickly.
Exactly. So yes, it's Stacy's in the chat had mentioned that many vendors are now charging more for people to use credit cards, especially for large payments. So having the flexibility of using your paying from ACH or wire when needed is always good. And there's no fee for that
hmm
on the Ramp side.
Exactly. And also, as we're all kind of getting back to, because this is all happening in one system, the spend that is happening, whether it's through ACH, whether it's through the Ramp card, all of it can be tracked back to the same place. So another area I wanted to highlight, which was actually back to Carlene's kind of original question here, is Ramp actually has a budgets feature as well. I'm actually going to jump into a different demo account to show this off. You give me 2 minutes. This is actually a relatively new feature for Ramp, something people have been asking for, and I feel like for your guys' specific use case, you might find this quite helpful. But essentially, you can upload a budget into Ramp, and we will track spend across that budget in whatever payment method you actually use in Ramp. So here you can see they set it up by departments, but you could set it up again based on project, based on client. You can even see what the committed is versus the actuals, along with what the actual budget is and what the percentage utilization is. And you can filter again by specific project, by the owner of each project, by QuickBooks customer, whatever it might be. So again, all of this is kind of living, breathing, growing with you in Ramp.
This is awesome. Yeah. I mean, this right here is a game changer. I personally haven't used budgets yet. I mean, I'm not an interior designer, so I don't really have to do budgets in the same way that they do. But to be able, even on the high level, to just say, 50,000, right? Like you don't
Right.
even have to like break it down. Like just what is how much is your procurement budget? Plop it in here. And now at any moment in time, you can come in and see exactly how much you have spent on that. That's just a game changer in my mind. If I were as an interior designer, when I first saw this and I was thinking of use cases, like I said, the one client we currently use it for, they're a nonprofit and they do things by classes because, nonprofits have to have buckets of money. Things are restricted and non-restricted. And I was like, you know what? I think this would be great for interior designers. So, and the more we talk about it, I'm like, yes, this is great for them.
Yeah, I feel like the more we're talking about more use cases, the more I'm like, oh, this other part of Ramp is like also great for this if you want to utilize it too. And Stacey, this hopefully answered your question. Please don't apologize for all the questions. I'm actually
No, we
loving
love
this.
this.
Yeah, we love it. But yes, you can use this for business budgeting as well. The way that you kind of set this up is you really just like import whatever fields you want. So it could be by project, but it could also just be general business spend, that office supplies, marketing. You could break it up by departments, whatever makes the most sense for you, and then actually track the spend across it.
Is there like a template so that they can build that budget in? Like in my budget, again, keeping it super high level. Is it pretty easy to upload that information, or is it like, are you keying it in, or can you upload it? How do you get the budget into Ramp?
Yeah, it's very easy. If you have an existing budget, you can essentially just upload it and we will kind of pull that data for you. If not, we have a template where you just kind of key in what areas you want to track and kind of across what categories. And then it's set up and you're good to go.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Mhm.
I'm going to take a look and see the other two questions. The other questions we had, I think we've already answered about multiple installments and items. The other question someone asked was their team forgetting to send receipts. They won't forget anymore with Ramp. They'll get a text message to remind them. Um, so yeah, so the other two questions that were sent ahead of time, we've already answered. So I feel like we've gone over. Can you explain pricing? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So let me jump back in here for a moment. All right. So we really have two different versions of Ramp. I won't get into Enterprise because for interior designers, you likely will not need this type of custom option, but I will talk about the first two. We have an entirely free version of Ramp. If you are
And
using,
that's the version I'm on, by the way, just for full
yes.
disclosure. I'm on the free version.
Um, Carlene is on the free version, so she can attest that our free version is extremely powerful. And if you do use QBO, then our free version is available to you. We have a direct integration with QBO on our free version. What's on the free version? As many corporate cards as you want, as many bill payments as you want, the invoice extraction, sort of all of the basic features of Ramp are there. When we get into Plus, Plus is $12 per user per month. And this is a wonderful discount that we give people that come through Carlene. So you can say thank you to her for getting a discount. But what is on the paid version? The paid version is sort of that next level of AI capabilities and control. So features like auto locking of cards. You could add a kind of control in the cards where if an employee does not submit receipts, say 48 hours after the spend happened, you can just cut off their cards automatically. It also comes with what I mentioned about the kind of AI assistant over text message of if you texted a photo of an object, is this within policy? That's kind of on our plus version.
Mm.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I covered. Budgets is on our plus version. Kind of more advanced approval workflows. I think if there's what I typically recommend in kind of the pricing conversation is if anyone after this wants to reach out and have kind of a one-on-one conversation about your specific use case, we can talk about if free or plus kind of makes more sense based on what is most important to you. But these are the two pricing options.
And I do want to add that the workflows, the approval workflows in the free version is pretty extensive already. So
Mhm.
unless you have a pretty complicated like use case, then advanced is a lot. And the $12 per month per user, a lot of my clients are still single users, or maybe there's only two or three people. So it's not that much if you wanted to go plus, and you can use your reward points to pay for plus. So that is one way of doing that.
Exactly. Great point, Carlene. So yeah, you could use your cash back to pay for the subscription easily. But again, really depends on what's most important to you. As Carlene mentioned, the approval workflows in free are straightforward, but if you ever are kind of at a point where it's like you need conditional approvals, parallel approvals, delegate approval, that's sort of when the paid version comes into play.
Nice. Any other questions? Yeah, Stacy. So the question is, do you mean budgets on the plus, like but yes. So that budget feature is on the plus side.
Yes, good clarifying question. So, what we kind of saw at the end of the budget tracking against the actuals and committed, that specific feature is on Plus.
And so in someone like Stacy's case, having, one or two users, but the headache that's going to save you is always time versus money, right? So
Yeah.
for 12 or $24 a month or free, if you use your cash back to pay for it, you can have this feature and not have to stress out and worry about how much you have, how much you're tracking against. Um,
Yeah.
or per client. But also, even if they did not use the budget, by setting up a budget for a particular project, they can still see how much they've spent, right? So don't, even if you don't use the official budget platform, you can always just go, I've set, this project has allowed 100,000. Where are we at this point in time, right?
Exactly. So that kind of first feature that I showed of actually setting up the virtual cards and adding the hard stops and whatnot, all of that is on our free version as well. It's really just that kind of advanced budgeting feature that would be on the paid version. But I
Can
think
you,
that Carlene's point, I'll just add, is really the goal of Ramp is to consolidate multiple solutions that you might
mhm,
already be using. So maybe some of you actually use reporting like systems already. Maybe some of you already use bill pay systems already. Hopefully, the goal is that you can bring them into one place. And for $12 per user per month, you actually might be saving money on software at the end of the day.
exactly. Can you show the expenses paid page that shows like all of your virtual cards? Because
Mhm.
this is what I use to kind of see where I stand.
Or let me actually go to the so you can kind of do this in two different ways. We have a physical card section, so you can see all physical cards that you've been issued out. But as Carlene mentioned, you can also take a look at all of the virtual cards that have been issued out as well. Are
Let
you
me say,
actually mentioning the
yeah.
funds section where
This is
it,
it, yes. The
yes.
utilization,
Hmm.
right. So you have program B has a budget of $800, for example, and you can see the utilization, exactly how much has been used. So that's if you're not ready yet for Plus, this will definitely be something that will also help you see exactly how much you've spent
Hmm.
in this particular case,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I'm
Good,
explaining
good.
this correctly.
You are excited. Yes.
I'm
No,
like, as I'm
this is
saying
a
the
great
words, I'm
call
like,
out.
wait a second. There are a lot of words coming out of my mouth, but I'm not sure if I'm making any sense.
No, you're actually spot on, and I'm so glad that you called this out. If in a scenario it was client A, client B, client C, and you had $100,000 budgets for each of them, you would be able to see the percentage of that budget used, and then you could actually click into each of these and, oops, not activity. You could actually see all of, I mean, in this case, there is no spend, but you would be able to see all of the spend associated with that budget in one place as well.
But one downside to this process is that if this is only for the card, so if we're using bill pay, so if you're trying to see the true budget for a project, which is, and you're using bill pay and cards, then you'll need to be on Plus to combine the two, because this will only show you your card spend.
Mhm.
So I just want to make that clear. I don't want to overpromise the free
Yeah.
version.
Good call out.
Um, And then Stacy asked, Carlene, do you help us set this all up? Yes, I can work with Ramp. So because I have used it myself, we can definitely help. I mean, Ramp has an amazing onboarding anyway, but we can definitely help as well.
Yes, and you have Carlene, who is amazing, but you also will have an onboarding specialist at Ramp assigned to your account for your first 60 days. So really the goal is, it would honestly, I mean, Carlene can speak to this, probably takes like 1 to 2 onboarding sessions to like actually get up and running, but we like to give additional support through your first 2 months just to be safe. And then after that, you would always have access to an account manager, Carlene, whenever you need help.
Even the help feature in Ramp, which I've used, is pretty good. So it's pretty robust. So if you do have a question and you're in the app, just being able to just ask those questions. There is, and by the way, we're looking at the computer, the desktop version or the website version, but there is an app as well. It doesn't have as many of the features, but you can do a lot of basic functions on the app as well. All right. I think that covers all the questions that I've received. Anything else that anyone in the who's here live want to add? Or anything, Perry, you want to make sure that you get out there before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say thank you all so much for joining, and thank you, Carlene, for setting this up. I hope that everyone found it useful. Um, Carlene or I will send a recap email, which I believe we have a call recording as well. But if anyone wants to see a more personalized demo, meet with someone on our team directly to talk about our use case, more than happy to set that up, and Carlene can introduce us.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining our Lunch and Learn Managing Project Spend Without the Chaos. Thank you, Stacy, and we're so glad you were here to ask a lot of those questions. Thank you, Deborah. I want to make sure I check the chat to see if there's 7 in here that would actually we didn't miss out. So I did notice we did have a little technical difficulties. The beginning part was not recorded, so I will have to get on Perry's schedule to see if she and I can just redo what we did in the first beginning part, and then we can stitch that with the part that was recorded and get a final, like, nice recording out to people. So it may take a few days, but we'll get that out. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.